Hello, OPSO family. My name is Raisa, and welcome back to the Wellness Wisdom Volume 2 series. I'm here with another one of the authors who is going to be talking to us about the 4 pillars of well-being. So please welcome Josh Rimany. Hello, Josh. How are you?
I'm awesome today. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for joining us here. Now, Josh, on our show, we always ask one question to start it off, and that is, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Josh Rimany. I like to tell people I'm the pharmacist that deprescribes drugs. Or now, what's been the common thread lately is I'm sort of becoming the unpharmacist. So that's really who I am and what I do.
Oh, very cool. And so, I guess along with the name, were you working in pharmacy before, in the pharmaceutical business before?
Yeah, a little bit of background on me is I'm classically trained as a pharmacist,
Mm-hmm.
who also turned towards a wellness career. So pharmacy got me started in my healthcare profession, if you will, but that has evolved over the last 20 years towards clinical nutrition, functional medicine. Um, Anything that has to do with wellness and well-being is something that I've been really personally attached to. So I've been a student of that for a good part of my life.
Okay, that's amazing. And so, to dive a little bit deeper into your story, why did you decide to move out from the pharmaceutical industry?
Well, I got into pharmacy. I guess that's a better backstory, right? Why did I get into pharmacy for to beginning is when I was 16, I had leukemia. It's a form of blood cancer. So I got really interested in my treatment process of medications and I got really in tune with them. And so I decided that I wanted to study them more so I could help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as I had gone through my journey of healing, um, and transformation from that perspective of becoming, on death's doorway all the way to being recovered, I really wanted to help other people. So I wanted to be in the helping profession, or at least what I thought was pharmacy. So I went into that. Um, and so I became a pharmacist. I worked for a pharmacy since I was 16 years old, all the way through college. And when I graduated, I worked for pharmacy. And I slowly started to realize filling prescriptions day after day,
Mm-hmm.
week after week, year after year. I'd been in community pharmacy for a very long time. I started to realize that people, chronic conditions, not cute, like you get a flu, you could get flu stuff, right? You get
Right.
a bacterial infection, you get an acute infection, you can get over it with medication. But the
Mm-hmm.
chronic conditions people were coming in for, I would just fill prescriptions day after day, week after week, same thing, same month. People weren't getting better. They were just sort of symptom resolve, right? They would be sort of maintenance, and that would be their doctor's goal or their goal. But nothing was really reversing or curing, which I thought was the case when I was cured of my cancer through medications, but it's really not the case. And so I really started thinking about that and really being a student of the why. Why
Mm-hmm.
is this going on? Why do people have these issues? And so that drew me more towards the wellness side of clinical nutrition, the science of supplements, and really working in on the next phase, which was functional medicine and getting certified in
Mm-hmm.
that modality, really kind of being that student of the why, the root cause of what's going on. And so that was sort of like a transition over time. Right? It was like over time, I just noticed there had to be something more, right? That question that we've all asked ourselves, is this the way it's going to be forever, right? Or is this how I want my story to end? Taking a sleeping medication every day, every month didn't work for me. And like from the standpoint of seeing my patients. And so
Mm-hmm.
those types of things got me thinking more about, well, what's going on in the back end of this, right? And so that's kind of what started and sparked my interest in well-being and wellness.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I really love, so when you were, I guess, so you were saying from 16 and then through college you were being a pharmacist. So at what point in your career, like how long did it take in your career for you for it to kind of be for you to be inspired? Do you know like the estimated time?
It was, yeah, it took me. I was thinking about this actually this morning on our preparation of our conversation. Was like, where did I kind of go? It's like I've been a student of this sort of philosophy for. It took about 15 years for me to really move my way through to where I've gotten to the point where I believe, I call it the pill for the ill philosophy, right? I firmly believe, my belief system, that medications don't fix or cure the system. They're important, right? I'm a
Mhm.
pharmacist still, but I like getting people off medications. I want them to understand that most chronic conditions
Right.
are are a lifestyle component. Most of why we have dysfunction or dis-ease in our body has to
Mhm.
do with how we react and interact with our environment and with life, and that's lifestyle. So lifestyle and nutrition, things that we do ourselves, you know, you don't get cancer or blood pressure because you have the gene, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
just turn on because you have the gene. It's what happens to the gene and what happens in our environment, our how we interact with that, with the signals that we put in, or the bad signals or the good signals, right? So
Mhm.
I always say in a really really simplified way of functional medicine, or looking at it from this perspective, is putting in better signals in and taking the bad signals out. And so when we do that, that with lifestyle and supplementation and food and diet, that's when we can really get positive change in our lives.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, perfect. And so, when we talk about lifestyle and we're seeing how, I think this has been kind of like a common thread throughout wellness wisdom too, all about lifestyle and adjusting our lifestyles to our new environments. Like we're busy, we're on the phone, we have the computers, nonstop working. What is the best way to adjust to a healthy lifestyle?
Well, I think the first part that I would think about it generally is a lifestyle, right? It's something
Right.
that we do. It's not something that's done to us, right? Because I think a lot of people still search for the thing that's going to help them on the outside
Right.
that helps them on the inside. So the body has a very innate ability to heal itself. I come from a pharmacy background, and there's something called the placebo effect, right? When a pharma comes in and studies a medication, up to 30% of people get a better with a sugar pill or nothing. So they're cured without giving them the medication. And pharma likes to discount that as we don't know, or that's an anomaly. They call it a double blind placebo controlled study, right?
Mhm.
But I tend to go on the other side of it and nurture that component. Is why do 30% of people get better without the medication? It's they've done something inside of them, right? Something has that belief system, or those signals, or whatever we talk about,
Mhm.
becomes part of that. And so the long and the short is really focusing in on intention and lifestyle. Like, we all can say we're busy, we all can say we're stressed, but are we really doing things about it? And having a guide to help you in your journey, if you don't know where to start, is really a good part. Like, whether you hire a professional or you do your own work and you have an accountability partner, it's really the work we do versus what I say the sick care model is. You go to the doctor, they tell you what's wrong with you, like they're the hero in the journey, right? They're going in, they're doing their tests and their labs, and this thing is wrong with you, and this thing is wrong with you, and we're going to prescribe diet, lifestyle, and medication. But what more
Mhm.
often than not, what I see in the standard approach is people just think the medication is going to help them, and they kind of forget about the diet and lifestyle. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden they go back to the doctor 3 to 6 months later. Diet and lifestyle they didn't really focus on that, right? That's not their focus, because you can't diagnose and treat lifestyle. I wish we could give prescriptions
Mhm.
for lifestyle,
Yeah.
and diet that our insurance would cover, right? We'd be in a lot better situation. So I think people kind of forget the first two, like eat right, exercise, and
Mhm.
take this supplement or take this prescription, because I've seen it so many times. It's like they think the prescription's going to do the work. It's going to help in the when they've gotten far away from the diet and lifestyle. Prescriptions are needed, right? That's the
Yeah.
last end. So let's move forward and proactively create this thing. I feel health and education are the two most important things in my life. So I put them at the highest priority.
Health and education. Okay, and we actually, sorry, we have a question here, and I think it actually ties into what we're talking about right now. So instead of me asking, I'm gonna let Zabina. Well, I'm gonna read it for her. So, Sabina, thank you for your question, and hello, Latifa, and hello to our viewers. Thank you for joining us today. Zabina asks, is it possible to share a few basic lifestyle changes that can affect us in a positive way? And I think you were talking about health and education. So, Josh, if you could continue on that point.
Well, it really, when I look at well-being in general, there's four categories for me. And
Right.
one of them is nutritional well-being. So food is medicine. It's also a poison. It depends on the dose, just like anything else. And so I like to say clean living is a really important part of what I do. So taking away all those bad signals in our food, in our chemicals that we put on our bodies or clean our surfaces with, we can clean up a little bit,
Hmm.
to where we're, I always say, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. Eat the rainbow, not Skittles. Like, eat the rainbow of colors. They all have a different phytonutrient density. So, you know, lean meat, lots of veggies. That means plant based. It doesn't mean plant only, plant based. The a lot of vegetables and a little bit of fruit, and repeat that. I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting, which means you eat in an 8 hour window, um, and you eat twice a day. Some people, I get by with that. I think that's a really good philosophy. Emotional well being is the second category. I think we really need to hone in on our stress levels and
Mm.
really understand what the stress is doing to our body, and really doing some things to manage that. So mindfulness, meditation, walks in nature, um, anything, music, something that can bring your stress level or that fight or flight mechanism down and bring that rest and digest space. They call it the parasympathetic space. If we can move towards that, then we're going to also be in a better space. You can't be in the other, or sorry, you are in one or the other. You're not in
Right.
fight or flight and rest and digest. You can only be in one. So if you're over here running from the tiger all day long from whatever situation we have,
Mhm.
we're not going to be able to rest and recuperate. So lifestyle changes, Zabina, those are things that I would really start with. I'm a big proponent of nailing really good quality sleep. I think
Mhm.
it's valued a lot. To 6 to 7 to 7 to 8 hours of sleep, quality sleep. Like, I track my sleep. We've talked about trackers in the volume. Um,
Mhm.
can put years on your life. I think people don't realize from a longevity perspective how important our sleep is. So those are just some things that I think I would do.
Amazing. Thank you, Josh. And thank you, Sabina, for asking that question. Yes, we have experts in the house, so please keep asking questions. It definitely helps. Josh, as we're talking, oh, she says thank you. And
Oh, of
as we're
course.
talking about the well-beings, the four pillars of well-being, you also talk about environmental well-being. So as individuals, how can we create healthy spaces, not only for ourselves, but for others? Or like a de-stress space.
Well, yeah. Well, I study under a feng shui master, which is all about your
Mhm.
space. It's not
Right.
just about rearranging the furniture, it's about energy. And so, one is declutter, right? If you can, before we were doing this interview, I literally took the closet behind me yesterday and I took everything out, and it's all in the other room because I needed to declutter. I want to
Right.
declutter. So I think from an environmental perspective, first thing is declutter. Like that junk drawer that's sitting in your kitchen that's just always full of junk, right?
Mhm.
If you pull that out and you just decluttered it and organized it, it feels better, right? Doesn't your
Mhm.
home feel better when it's decluttered? So I think that's a really big piece. I put environmental well-being and emotional well-being as the two pillars that I think we forget the most about, because everyone,
Mhm.
nutritional and physical well-being are kind of the ones everyone, eat right, exercise right,
Right.
but emotional well-being, mental health, mental fitness, what I think stress, and when you can go all the way down towards trauma, but stress, right? We're coming out of COVID, we've all had a different heightened of stress, and that chronic component of stress is really important. So environmental is really about how we, our bodies, our genetics interact with our environment. And so being on social all the time is a stimulating effect to our brains. It's really a stressful component. So
Mhm.
limiting that in respectful ways. But how do our environment interact with our bodies, and genetically we test people for that, right? There's
Mhm.
tests you can do to see how you interact, like detoxify. We put on more chemicals, and there's more chemicals in our environment now than there ever have been. That's part of how, we move as a society. Things get more technologically advanced, but at the
Mhm.
same time it becomes more toxic to our environment. And so I'm a real big proponent of cleaning up things, like
Mhm.
you're cleaning chemicals in your house. Um, I use an organic mattress, so there's not a lot of off gassing. We use, I think it's grove.com, which is that's where we get all of our cleaning supplies, because they're all kind of phthalate free and chemical
Mhm.
free. Don't drink out of plastic, get rid of your plastic, drink out of, glass or stainless steel. These are simple things that we can do. I love making wellness made simple, because I think we overcomplicate things about the widgets and what we need to do. I'm using these, wired mics because I don't believe that all that Bluetooth, all that, 5G is really good for us. So let's limit it if we can. Let's get out in nature. Let's do some of those things. The environmental piece is something I don't think a lot of people understand or realize. And when
Mhm.
I say too much chemicals, I always use this analogy. My grandparents were exposed to as many chemicals in a month that are in their lifetime that we're exposed to in a month. So
Wow.
we're not genetically any much different than that time frame, right? And so
Mhm.
we have to do things to make sure that we're very aware of the toxic exposure and the toxic load we have on our bodies, which has to do with our, like, with your meat. Like, don't put chemicals or antibiotics or hormones in your meat. Make sure it's clean. It
Right.
doesn't have to be USDA 100% organic, $12 a pound chicken, but you
Mhm.
can find chicken relatively inexpensive if you just look for it, right? It's a little bit of the effort that it takes, rather than assuming somebody else has done it for you.
Mm, right. Those are really good. And what I liked, thank you, Josh. What I really like about what you're saying is wellness made simple, and just exactly those things, because like you said, we're exposed to so many different chemicals and situations and environmental toxicity that it can get overwhelming to a point where you're like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to keep living the way I am, and whatever happens, happens. And that can be scary because we desensitize ourselves. But having people like yourself coming out and also writing books like Wellness Wisdom makes wellness simple. And I think when we can go back to those simple things, it really helps in how we live our daily lifestyles, and doing and taking action, and living up to that kind of potential there. I'm really shocked as to your analogy about your grandparents, because it's like I think in a way, in a negative way, it's like, wow, holy smokes, that's a lot of chemicals. But it also shows how resilient and immune our bodies are. So to think that if we're handling it right now, imagine if we get better.
Right.
Imagine if we adjust to these lifestyles, how much stronger we would be, considering how many like chemicals we take in every single day from our environments, our food, our prescriptions, supplements, stuff like that. But it leads me to my next question for you, and I think you was talking about it in sleep, and that's tracking apps. So, how often do you track your own health? What are the benefits of doing that? And what are some apps or websites that are really good for tracking your health in a safe way? Because we don't want third parties taking our information.
Well, yeah, well, that's the new currency is data, right? And
Yeah.
so it surpassed money, I think in 2020, where data is the most valuable currency. So we have to be careful of that, right?
Mhm,
And so what we're talking about is one, wellness made simple, right? So what are the things we can do that are simple that we can do for our health? And then on the other side is let's embrace the good part of technology. It's not all doom and gloom, right?
mhm,
So I use Aura. That's my favorite. That's what we put everyone in our programs through. It's Aura Ring.
mhm,
Because their app is very intuitive and tracks you over time. So it's kind of got a little bit of AI into it where it's sort of giving you your things. Lots of different ways to do it. I know people have Garmin watches and we have Fitbits. We have these things. I like Aura and the Whoop band because they track HRV, heart rate variability,
mhm.
and that's a marker for how you're managing and handling your stress load. And so that's a really marker for me for longevity and how I'm doing and managing my own stress and well-being. So I really enjoy the way you look at it is if you're not tracking and measuring, it won't get better.
Mm,
And if you're tracking and reporting on it, it gets better exponentially. It's kind of like in business too. If you're not tracking a metric, it won't improve.
mhm.
So I looked at my sleep score and my readiness score with my app today, and my readiness score was 95 out of 100. And I was like, yes, I'm ready for this interview. This is going to be great.
Woohoo!
Um, so I've been really intentional about my sleep. And so sleep trackers are really important. So I like Aura because they have an algorithm in their sleep that's way above what I think anybody else's is. Now, is it the best fitness tracker? Probably not. There's more. Most people are familiar with fitness tracking, but are they familiar with wellness tracking? And I think Aura does a better job with sort of taking all the information and give you kind of a daily readiness score so you can track how, all right, I need to sleep a little bit more here. Maybe something that I ate too late affected my HRV, which affected my sleep. And so I think a lot of people have been in tune. And what I love about Aura and Whoop is they started with activity and getting that HRV balance for athletes and stuff. Well, it's good for everybody. And so those are the ones I use personally and that I really enjoy from a tracking perspective. Obviously, Apple Health, and we have all these things that are kind of synergistic to heart rate and blending with our phones. And so that's the one I really enjoy using. And once you get something that's a device, um, it's it's tracking in real time, and I think that's really important. I think that's the type of leverage we can use with our technology that's going to be really important for the next phase of humanity.
Mm, very nice, very nice. Thank you, Josh. And we have another question from Zabina. She says, "Is there any pre-bedtime routine to get a better rest in the night? Thank you."
Oh yeah, I'm actually going to do I did an in-person talk on sleep hygiene, and it went really well. So I want to do one that's virtual as well. So follow me on Facebook, and you'll see when we do that. I really think there's some pretty key components of getting a good night's sleep. One, shutting down electronics 2 hours before sleep, really important for me. All the blue light we're getting from LED lights to our screens to our phones, that particular frequency of light is very stimulating to us. It's like it's high noon. So when you're trying to go to sleep, the body's taking that cortisol, the things we need to run all day long, bringing that down and raising up melatonin, which is going to be helpful to sleep, right? And so our eyeballs are the first place that sees that. This reticular activating system will take all this stuff in, and it really says, hey, brain's wide awake. So shut down the lights, get rid of the screen time, do things like that. I do journaling, I do meditation, breath work, um, and just calming myself down a couple hours before bed really helps me, and really I think is really key to affecting our, because a lot of times we're going to watch TV, or we're going to get on our phone, then we're going to go to bed. Well, our brains are still wired for daytime, and so we need that time to kind of settle ourselves down, calming teas, things like that. So anything that helpful for you that can be helpful to getting the brain waves sort of calming down into that restful state, really important. And there's simple things you don't have to do. I do think 1 to 2 hours of screen time is automatic for people, but the breath work or meditations, there's simple apps that can be only 5 to 10 minutes that can really calm you down.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna put out an app suggestion, which I think it's a new one. It's called Loopla, Loopla, just
Mm,
for those who want to check it out. It's like it's these virtual seascapes that are like 3D models, and basically it's kind of like 3D coloring. And so when you go on the app at nighttime and it's low, you just kind of click on it and you're lighting up different pieces of this 3D puzzle, so it kind of calms you down. Or I think a really good one is sometimes if you have like screen apps that have like the water texture to it. I don't know how to describe it,
right.
but it's basically water on like a water screen on the app, and when you press it, it moves the water around. And I think that's another calming. I don't know what it's called, but trying to describe it, something like that, because I think they're saying when you see water, it all automatically calms you down, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
well, it's part of the
Mhm.
whole component of our well-being is nature,
Right.
right? You're just
Mhm.
mimicking nature, right? How
Yeah.
many people say they feel so much calmer on vacation, but when they're in vacation, they're either in the mountains or the beach, and
Yeah.
they're in nature. Well, yes, do more of that. That's important to that. I like reading before bed. Nothing
Mhm.
stimulating, just something calming. Um, like I said, a little bit of meditation or some sort of thing that's going to calm that system down. And again, I told this to someone the other day. I said, um, doing a challenge at night for like a few, like 5 days, and see how you sleep is when the lights go out, just use candlelight, nothing else. Take all that frequency, all those lights out of the equation. Just use candles for the until you go to bed, and see what happens. See how well you sleep. All this is trial and validating, right? You do these things consistently, and then you see how you're doing. If you cut your screen time out for 2 hours before bed and you do
Yeah.
it for a week, just see how you do. Like, don't take my word for it, right? These are things that are time tested. I always say ancient wisdom blended with modern science is backed by science. But these
Mhm.
are, the hunter gatherer in us. We didn't have all these lights, right? When it got dark,
It
it
got
was
dark.
dark, and then our brains would be
Yeah.
conditioned to go to sleep. Well, we're still like that. So
Mhm.
that's why we're so stimulated all the time. How can you expect to go to sleep if you're already stimulated, right? You have to kind
Yeah.
of wind down a little bit.
You're right. You're right. And this is an odd comparison, but I'm even finding it because I have a parrot too. And it's weird because when she's trying to go to sleep, we have to take all the lights off. We have to make sure she's away from the TV. And it's like, oh, well, maybe I should be doing this for myself too. Kind
Right?
of thing. Like, because you're seeing it in your pet, and then you're like, oh my goodness, I'm the same thing. Like, I need to calm down before bed, really get ready and have that kind of prep time. But thank you, Josh, for those lifestyle changes. And Zabina, I hope Josh has thoroughly answered your question for you, because I think he did. So thank you for that. Just before we end off, Josh, what are some of your plans for after the book? Do you have any upcoming programs, any social links, podcasts, anything that we can, follow you on this journey of health and wealth?
Yeah, I'm relaunching, so rebranding and launching my podcast, which is going to be it's titled Beyond the Pills. That's kind of my thread that I love to teach people, is as a pharmacist that moved on beyond. So podcast is launching soon. So you can hit me up on Facebook. I've got a TikTok account that's Beyond the Pills. That gives you the short snippets of things. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook just by my name. So those are things that people can follow me to see what else is coming. I am also launching a virtual wellness summit for pharmacists. So I'm really attached to moving pharmacy beyond the pill for the ill approach, because it's just not enough. And so I'm actually launching a wellness summit, specifically how pharmacists can go beyond the pill, just like I have, and bringing all the 20 years of relationships I bring into the summit. So those are things that are kind of hot button. DeWorthDrug.com is my brick and mortar here in Charlotte. That's what we do here in Charlotte. And so I've gotten really motivated to take our programming that we've created there and bring that out to a virtual component. So we're also launching the Stay Well Institute, which is going to be super excited, because we're bringing our 3 signature programs to a virtual component to get our outreach bigger. So everything I've been doing over the last 6 months is to get the outreach from the local space out into the community, which I think is sorely needed. The world needs wellness.
I agree with you on that. And on that point, thank you so much, Josh. For those who have been watching, make sure you follow him on Instagram and Facebook, listen to his new podcast, and hopefully when the virtual summits arrive, you will also join. I think you said you also have a sleep hygiene one coming up soon, right, Josh?
Yeah. So a lot of what we're going to be doing is having these virtual webinar spaces just to continue to give value to people. So that's really important. Sleep is definitely up there. And my podcast is really designed around stress and longevity, those 2 components that I think people are really, really needing to have some guidance on. And so part of longevity, you can bring that all down, but sleep is a big one. I think if we nailed that one, we can put some quality life into some people. So yeah, that's coming soon.
All right. Oh my goodness. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh, for being here today on the Wellness Wisdom Volume 2 series. Thank you to our audience for joining. I hope that you connect with Josh and listen to his podcast. I will also be listening to that. I need some non-stress and longevity into my life. And Knowledge, Strategy, and Execution says, thanks, Apso and Josh. Dope interview. Learned a lot. Zabina says, thank you, Raisa and Josh. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
Have
guys.
a wonderful, wonderful day. And we will see you next time for the Wellness Wisdom Volume 2 series. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Stay well.